much to go through the process itself, starting with the memo that the coordinators on the call received.
Screen share video call. 4 callers.
So you should have received this memo October 1st. It includes an attachment as well with the list of parks and systems that are included with this effort.
Word document.
And these were coming straight from the National Transit Inventory, which is the official list of systems for the Park Service. And that's why they were included for this effort. It includes alternative transportation systems at the parks, whether they're concession contract or owned and operated or a tour. This effort will, the goal is to identify the inventory for these assets as part of the official list.
Table.
So this attachment tells you where or which parks are involved and which systems at those parks, and whether we've already worked with them directly via pilot, then you'll see they're marked as yes, the review is already complete. And if not, they have a template file posted on the SharePoint site accordingly.
Reopens email.
So with that, just jumping back to the memo, I understand this deadline timeline that was put forth is actually pushed back to the end of the calendar year, so parks have some additional time to complete the review. Additionally, just wanted to highlight the staff that should be involved for this process. It's important to include the ATS manager or staff that's most familiar with the alternative transportation system itself, as in the routes and the sites that the vehicle stops along the way, in coordination with lists or person that knows the assets well in the system in FMSS, because the combination of those two knowledge bases are what's going to be important to complete this inventory review.
Identification of park alternative transportation system.
All right, so with that, the first step is following the link provided in the email itself. Clicking through there will take you to the SharePoint site. Again, this is the repository for all the files needed for this effort. And you'll see two folders available here, a reference folder, as well as a folder for the inventory files.
Opens reference folder.
So the reference folder includes a copy of all the resources and files that you might need for this effort. So if you're ever looking for something, it should be posted here. There's a copy of the memo. Went out with the draft business practices. That's a comprehensive resource for ATSLAM, as well as what's titled inventory references here, which call out some common assets for a given mode or type of system that Nick will go through here shortly.
Clicks the file path, general.
So back in the Park ATS inventory files folder is where you'll see the Park inventory templates posted, and then by region. So you can click into your respective region folder and find your inventory templates posted here. So this is where you'll go in and open up your file to conduct the data review. And with that, I'll turn it over to Nick to go through the step-by-step instructions and completing that review.
Opens document.
Great, thanks, Andrew. And as Andrew said, we'll try to answer all questions at the end of the webinar. So if there are any questions that pop up, please just put those in the chat box, and in an effort of trying to keep this to an hour, we'll try to answer everyone's question at the end. So with that, I will get started. As Andrew mentioned, this is the workbook that you'll open up from that SharePoint site that Andrew had up on his screen. So I'll skip quickly through the overview and background as Andrew already touched on those points. Basically, this is just providing the park with a quick overview and background of what we're trying to accomplish here. As far as the table of contents, this can be used to navigate the workbook. So all of these are hyperlinked, so it can assist with jumping to the home page, where the park can find information on their alternative transportation systems, what's in the NTI, park map, and some additional references there at the bottom. The inventory tab is all of the park's real property from FMSS.
Table.
And this is the actual tab where the park will complete their inventory review. So moving on to definitions, this is just another reference point for the park. What is an ATS? What is considered inventory? What is considered, or what is a location? And then what is ATS inventory? The ATS inventory definition is highlighted here, but just to give a quick, I guess, 30,000 foot view of a supporting asset for an alternative transportation system. It's basically anything that supports the system, right? So if it's a shuttle system, it's the road that the shuttle travels on. It's the bus stop. It's where visitors park to access the system. For an interpretive tour, it can include things like restrooms that might be included as part of a tour stop. Any parking area on the side of the road that the shuttle or interpretive tour can stop on, etc. So you get the idea there, and we certainly have many resources and kind of definitions to help the park determine what is and what's not a supporting asset. So moving down to the instructions, the first step for the park is to just quickly review and verify the systems that we're requesting information for. So in this example, we're using Yosemite, and this is just for demonstration purposes only, but here's some information on the tours, a quick description of all the systems and what their purposes are. And then moving down, we kind of have a snapshot of the NTI data. One thing to note is this is 2018 NTI data, as the 2019 data is still in the process of being completed. But like I said, it's just to let the park know and request information on all the systems that we have in NTI. So once the park kind of reviews those systems and, I guess looks to see if there are any missing, or there's one there that's no longer a system associated with the park, they can begin their inventory review. So to assist with that project, the park can navigate. So for Yosemite, it's primarily shuttles and shuttle bus, van, tram types of systems. So the park can navigate to the hyperlinked resource documents and the reference sheets that we've put together, which Andrew showed us in the references folder on the SharePoint site. So what that looks like is, and let me zoom in here so you all can see.
An informational text with park images.
So what that is just some more information on the system, the typical types of locations that support the system, and why they are to be included in the park's inventory. So just quickly kind of breezing through the reference sheet, obviously for a bus or shuttle system, paved, unpaved roads, bus stations and shelters, parking, fueling systems, vehicle storage. So anywhere that that shuttle bus might be maintenanced or stored over the off season, things like that. Any maintenance facilities, charging stations for electrical vehicles, etc. So you kind of get the idea of what we're looking for there. And then on the second sheet of all of these reference documents are actual NPS tours, and I can zoom out a bit here so you can kind of get the full picture there. So they're actual NPS tours that we've gone through and validated all of the associated locations that pertain to the park's alternative transportation system. And these were done in a workshop setting with communication with the park. So these reference documents will include system maps, all of the supporting assets, and some call outs for some of the, I guess, more abnormal or questionable assets. So as I mentioned, for Shenandoah Rafting Camp Tour, the Rapid Camp vault toilet, which is located at Rapid Camp, is actually considered to be a supporting location because although it's accessible to visitors that are just accessing the area, the shuttle is actually one of the primary ways for visitors to actually get to that area, as it goes down a pretty lengthy private road. So, so you can kind of get the gist of what these reference documents do and help to support the park and filling out their inventory sheet. So going back to the Yosemite instruction sheet, from there the park indicate whether yes or no the park has included an asset in the supporting systems list. So, and that's just done by saying yes or no. If it's yes, we'll ask the park to tag which ATS it relates to. So for Yosemite, they have 7 different systems. So we'll ask for that. And that just helps us to better track and validate, you know, as these systems kind of change over time, we can, you know, quickly pull up, okay, let's pull up for winter ski location we need to add or remove. It just helps with the efficiency there. And then the park can also enter any types of notes. So if there's questions as this document is being passed back and forth between park staff and being completed, it might say something like, I guess this is a bad example, but if it's a warehouse, it might be something that we can use for storage. So it could be, is this shuttle storage?
Types shuttle storage and cell.
So that's just an example of how we can use that note section.
Returns to text.
And then moving on, we'll run through a couple quick examples of what this looks like and how our thought process goes into identifying these assets. So we'll start with Fire Islands, which was a pilot that we had run this spring with the park to validate their inventory list. So for Fire Islands, there are 2 ATSs. It's the Sailor's Haven ferry and the Watch Hill ferry. So in this case, it's a pretty simple system. It's transporting visitors for the Sailor's Haven ferry from the Sailor's Haven ferry terminal to the Sailor's Haven Visitor Center. So at the Visitor Center, there's a marina and some shorefront assets that are included in the inventory list, and the same goes with Watch Hill. All the shorefront types of assets and whatnot go to supporting that system.
Leaves map.
So what this looks like is, you know, the park fills out yes or no. In this case, I filtered to yes, and you can kind of get an idea of the supporting locations there. So obviously the channels, which are needed to maintain the safety and integrity of that shuttle route, the bulkhead, which kind of serves to protect some of that shorefront, that actually serve as like docking and passenger pickup and drop off, etc. So those are a list of locations that that we identified with the help of the park that support those systems. So again, parking, something that's you know, not necessarily the first thing that would come to mind when thinking of a ferry system by itself, but the visitors are primarily using that parking to access the system. So you can kind of get a sense there. And I will go back to our Yosemite example. Sorry, we're jumping around a little bit.
Table.
So I guess in applying that kind of framework to Yosemite and as the park will, we're going to go through a bit of a system example here for, in this case, the Mariposa Grove Transportation Service. So this service provides visitors service from the Mariposa Grove Welcome Plaza to Mariposa Grove, which is a pretty popular area in the park. So rather than visitors driving there, they can park at the visitor center and access Mariposa Grove through boarding the shuttle. So how we would think about this is really going and using Google Maps or Park Maps. Some parks will have their shuttle systems kind of mapped out on the park website, or have some kind of maps that accompany these systems. So for this one, we'll just use Google Maps, and essentially what the Mariposa shuttle does is it takes visitors from the Welcome Plaza to this area in the park. So if we zoom in, we'll actually see that there is a bus stop here at Mariposa Grove. So that will be something to look in with the location list. So the Welcome Plaza, any parking for visitors at the Welcome Plaza, anywhere that they might purchase tickets, free shuttle, out of traffic parking areas, bus visitors, and then the bus stop itself obviously would all be classified as ATS supporting assets. So once we get back to our inventory review, we can start with just a simple location search. So that might be something like Mariposa, right? We have the road there, and I've gone through and added some notes in here. So
Cursor hovers over cells.
but yeah, so we'll start with that search. Then we can filter on the asset code if we want to look at paved roads. So there are paved roads that the Mariposa Grove shuttle system runs on. So that's the Mariposa Grove Road and the Tram Road. So we can go ahead and mark those both as yes. And again, this is for demonstration purposes only and not verified yet by the park. So please keep that in mind if I'm making any mistakes in identifying these assets. So then we can clear our search and kind of go through the location list and look for any other types of systems or I'm sorry, locations that would support the system. So just in moving down, there's that Mariposa Grove bus stop that we saw on Google Maps there. So we would go ahead and tag that as a supporting asset. Bus parking, which obviously is for the shuttle bus. The parking at the visitor center, which the visitors use to access the system, right? So that will be classified as location as well.
Types in cell.
Moving down, this is one that may or may not be. So as I mentioned, if tickets are needed to be purchased to access the system, things like a gift shop or the welcome center, the visitor center, or in this case, we have a gift shop and a ticket booth, might be used to actually purchase tickets to board that shuttle. So in this case, the park description didn't say anything about visitors purchasing tickets. So we'll leave those blank for now, but this kind of gives you an idea of kind of our thought process and how we're going about this. So outside of the system and what the system travels on and going from point A to point B, we need to understand there's also other supporting locations that service the system in some way. So for this system in particular, we have the so the Wawona store bus stop. This is another one of a potential supporting asset, as we see that Wawona Road leads right up to the Mariposa Grove Welcome Plaza. So it could be the case that visitors can catch the bus somewhere on Wawona Road, ride it to the Welcome Plaza, and then continue on to the shuttle. So that one is kind of up for open interpretation, and we would need some park input on that one. Moving down, the Wawona maintenance yard fuel station. So this might be an area that obviously fuels the park shuttles.
Spreadsheet.
The park may perform maintenance on the shuttle there, but again, it's something that we would need to verify with the park. For now, I can just tag that as yes, as this isn't going to the park. It's just for demonstration purposes only. But that would support the system, because it might be an area where maintenance is performed on the shuttle, or the shuttle is stored or fueled, or et cetera. So once I have my list of assets, and obviously there's probably quite a few more that support this system, the park will essentially verify or not verify that that location has been reviewed. And the purpose of this is, just as this is getting kind of passed along to different members of the park staff, someone that's more familiar can go ahead and mark it as yes. These locations I'll check out. Or if there's something that has a question, we can just put a no as a placeholder for something that maybe needed to follow up on. So that's kind of the purpose of that column. So essentially what that means is, when parks say, yes, this has been reviewed, and yes, we validated it as a supporting system, then that kind of location review is finalized. So once we are finished with our location review, we'll go ahead and save this document, or this Excel file, back to the SharePoint site, and we'll replace the word draft up here with final, and that will let us know that that has been submitted back. We'll take a look at it. We'll reach out to let you know that it's been received, and if there are any follow-up questions with the locations have been tagged, and that kind of completes the park's inventory review and their responsibilities for this process. So thanks for bearing with me, and Andrew, I think we're ready to pass it back to you.
Mouse disappears.
Great, thanks, Nick.